going on, guys? Steve V here with another video, and today we're going to talk about FOMO, the fear of missing out. We've all experienced it at one point or another. Some of us have even bought caps because of it. I know I have in the past, and I'm ashamed to admit it, but FOMO has got the best of me, and I have actually purchased caps because of it. And it's hard not to, because Arcade1Up keeps on coming out with the hits. You know, they do those big titles, they tug on the nostalgia heartstrings. And yeah, it's especially this year. This year has been interesting because when a lot of other companies were kind of halting production because of the pandemic, Arcade1Up literally said, "Hold my beer. We're going to put our foot on the gas and we're going to make more products this year than we ever have in the past." I mean, it's insane. 3/4 scale machines, countercades, 2-player countercades, partycades, head-to-head tables, infinity game table, pinball machines. It has been insane. They have come out with more machines, more titles than they ever have before. It's crazy. So FOMO is running strong within our community. So with that being the case, as a consumer, and now kind of, being limited on space, with the prices getting higher, I had to develop something to try to kind of counteract this FOMO bug that we feel sometimes. So I had to think of 4 questions to ask myself every time a new product comes out to really understand if it is actually a cabinet that I want, or am I just experiencing this FOMO bug. And I'm going to tell you guys what the 4 questions are that I asked myself. And basically, after each question, if I can basically say, yes, I still feel comfortable with this cabinet as far as purchasing it and all that stuff after those 4 questions that I asked myself, that's when I really know I do want that cabinet. But if I answer no to at least one of these 4 questions, then I know I am bit by that FOMO bug and I'm being tricked in my mind just because of all the buzz and all the hype within the community. I'm tricking myself that I actually want that cabinet when I really don't. And like I said, I've done it before, so I have to be careful now and make sure I don't do it again. So the first question that I have to ask myself is, do I have nostalgia or a connection to that particular game or cabinet? And the reason I ask myself this is because the reason I buy Arcade1Ups is because of the connection and nostalgia that I have for that particular game or cabinet. I know everybody buys them for different reasons, but that's my reason for buying them. They play on that nostalgia emotion, that nostalgia heartstring. When I see a cabinet that looks similar to the cabinet that I played when I was a kid, when I get to play the game arcade style the way I did as a child, I mean, that hits me in the feels, and that's why I want to own that cabinet. That's why I want to buy that cabinet. But in the past, I have actually bought cabinets where I didn't have nostalgia for or a connection to that particular cabinet. And those were the FOMO buys. Those were the ones where I kind of tricked myself into thinking I wanted it. And then 6 months to a year later, once that buzz kind of wears off, I'm standing there looking at that cabinet like, why did I buy this? Now it's taking a space. I have to try to sell it to make space for a cabinet I actually do want. So with that being said, that's why I have to ask myself that first question. I need to really understand, is it something that I actually have a connection to, that I have nostalgia for? If the answer is yes, then I know I do actually want that cabinet. But if the answer is no, and I've convinced myself that I want it, but the answer is no to that question, that is a bad sign that I'm experiencing FOMO and that I'm kind of getting caught up in the buzz again about that particular new release. So the second question I have to ask myself is, will this be a game or cabinet that Arcade1Up could re-release within the next year or two? And the reason I ask myself this question is because I got into the Arcade1Up game fairly early. So I've been the victim of, maybe victim isn't the right wording, but I've bought the first gen cabs that, only had 2 to 3 games. And then a year later, they re-release that particular title with, 7 games or 12 games or 12 games with Wi-Fi. And then you're kind of, sitting there looking at that cabinet like, why didn't I wait? because now I have to try to sell this cabinet. I have to try to, get the money to basically buy the better version of that cabinet. So with that being said, now I kind of try to play the waiting game with some of these cabinets that I want, because if I know it is a particular big title, like a Pac-Man, like a Miss Pac-Man, Street Fighter 2, Mortal Kombat 2, I know that those are going to be titles that are definitely going to get re-released within the next year or two. Every single time, because those are the cabinets that sell the best. So Arcade1Up is going to just keep on doing versions of that cabinet with some tweaks here and there. Like I said, 12 games, Wi-Fi. So basically, they can continue selling these cabinets that are doing really well for them. So that's why sometimes I have to play the waiting game and ask myself, before I buy this particular cabinet that maybe is getting a little bit of interest from me, maybe I'm starting to experience some FOMO with it, is it really what I want? And the greatest example of that is they just released the Class of 81. So I have the original Miss Pac-Man cabinet that had 4 games. I love that cabinet. It's one of my most played cabinets. And I also love the standalone Miss Pac-Man art. So when they came out with the Class of 81, they came out with 12 amazing Namco games on there. I mean, they're fantastic. And when I saw those games, I started getting that FOMO, because I thought, if I don't pick up this cabinet, maybe I'm going to miss out on those 12 particular titles, being in one cabinet. But the problem was, even though I do have some nostalgia for the Class of 81, I have more nostalgia for the standalone Miss Pac-Man art, and that is the art I prefer. So I had to kind of think to myself, do I want to sell my Miss Pac-Man cabinet that I have now with the 4 games, with the standalone Miss Pac-Man art for the Class of 81, but then not really be happy that it's a half and half art and not that standalone Miss Pac-Man art? So that's when I thought, you know what? I guarantee you that there will be another Miss Pac-Man with 12 games, with Wi-Fi, that will probably come out within the next year or two, because they're already doing tons of Miss Pac-Man countercades, partycades. I mean, it just seems like every couple of months there's a new Miss Pac-Man something. So I figured, you know what? It's better to play the waiting game with this one, because I think they will do a standalone Miss Pac-Man cab with that standalone art with the 12 games. So that's where asking this second question was kind of beneficial to me, because I saved myself. I live here in Canada. It's $6.99 plus tax. I saved myself like a good $750 by playing this waiting game and realizing that there is a chance that the actual cab that I'm really waiting for will come out in the next year or two, because I have made that mistake in the past of buying earlier gens, and then the next year they do a better version of it, and then I have to sell that earlier gen to kind of get the newer one. So the third question I have to ask myself is, do I have the space or want to give real estate to that particular cabinet? Now, this is a very important question, because I'm pretty sure I'm speaking for a good majority of the people watching this video right now. A lot of us are out of space. We either got in early, or even if you didn't get in early, you caught that bug and you just started buying cabs like crazy. So a lot of us are very limited on space, and we have to really think through, when purchasing a new cabinet, do we have the room for it? Do we want to part with a cabinet to make space for a new cabinet? Because that's where I'm at. I have to sell a cabinet to make space for a newer cabinet. So by asking myself this question, it just kind of plants that seed in my head that I need to really realize, like, hey, like I said, for me, I have to sell a cabinet. So right now I have Burger Time up for sale, because I'm trying to get The Simpsons, because I have more of a connection to The Simpsons. And I know I'll play those 2 games a lot more than I play any of those games on the Burger Time cabinet, because the only game that I play on the Burger Time cabinet is Burger Time. I love that game. Don't get me wrong. I love that game. That is why I bought the cabinet. But I also bought the cabinet because of a little bit of FOMO. I thought it was a limited run cabinet, which I know in the States it was, but here in Canada, that has not been the case. I can still buy a Burger Time today from any of the retailers carrying Arcade1Up products here in Canada. So I kind of jumped the gun on Burger Time, thinking that I would lose my opportunity to buy it. But with every cabinet that I have down here, I play multiple games on each cabinet. Burger Time's the only one where I actually just play one game. I just play Burger Time. I've played Bad Dudes maybe twice, but 9 times out of 10 it's Burger Time. And like I said, I have more of a connection, and I know I'm gonna play Simpsons and Simpsons Bowling a lot more than I play, Burger Time or any of those other 3 games. So, that's why I have it up for sale right now, and that's what I mean by you have to really think, like, with space being limited and space being such of an important aspect to a lot of our arcade rooms right now, you have to really think, if I am going to buy this new cabinet, is it something that I'm willing to give the space in my arcade for? If the answer is no, then it's not something you actually want. If the answer is yes, after asking those 2 prior questions and then getting to the third question, maybe it's not FOMO and you do actually want the cabinet. So the 4th question that I asked myself is probably the most important question right now, because there has been a huge change within the last year or two as far as price. So the last question that I asked myself is, with this price that these cabinets are at now, can I justify paying it for that particular game or cabinet? So like I said, this is the most important question to me, because there was a time where a lot of us were able to buy tons of Arcade1Up cabinets because the price was a little bit lower. $2.99, $3.99, $4.99, but those times are gone. Those times don't exist anymore. Now we're paying anywhere from $5.99, $6.99, here in Canada $7.99, $8.49. I mean, the prices have got really high. And once you start adding tax to it, sometimes some of these cabinets are going for $1,000. And like I said, I'm here in Canada, so a lot of them are going for about $1,000. So with that being the case, you have to really think, do I actually want this cabinet? Because if I'm going to be spending $1,000, I mean, $1,000 can get you a lot. $1,000 can get you, can get you groceries for a month or two, can get you, multiple, shirts, pants, jackets. $1,000 can get you a lot. So you have to really think, do I want to open up my wallet and spend that kind of money on this game or product, if I'm not really sure if I actually do want it? So that's where, I feel like FOMO starts kind of going away, that emotional kind of thing that we have where sometimes we get excited about these cabs and then we just go and buy them. That emotional aspect is starting to leave and reality is starting to creep in. Because once you start adding, more money to, or you start bringing these prices up and you start making us pay more, it's funny how all of a sudden people start thinking things through a little bit more and starting to make decisions more based on, I guess reality and not, getting clouded by the FOMO and the emotions and the nostalgia and stuff like that. So yeah, that question is probably the most important that I ask myself, and I feel that's why I put it right at the end, because sometimes even with the 3 questions before that, you still might think you want a cab. But when it gets down to that nitty-gritty, when it gets down to that money aspect, that's when you really know if it is something you want. Because if you want to play, you got to pay. And for me, I know if I want to play, I'm willing to pay for something that I actually do want to play. I can't just spend money on something that maybe I think I want, and then next thing you know, it's just going to be kind of a decorative piece in my arcade room that I never touch. Those days are gone. That's not going to happen anymore. So that's why that last question is very important and probably the most important. So yeah, so those are the 4 questions I asked myself to try to get this FOMO bug to kind of go away. I call it the FOMO Eliminator. Hopefully these are 4 questions that you can ask yourself too, to maybe help yourself make a decision, to try to see if it is a cab you actually want or is it just FOMO. So I'll kind of go over those 4 questions again. So the first one is, Do you have the nostalgia or connection to that particular cab? Like I said, that's why I buy cabinets, so that's why I ask myself that first. Maybe it'll be the case with you too. If not, you know, maybe you can ignore that question, but that's the first question I ask myself. The second one, will this be a game that Arcade1Up might re-release in the next year or two? The third one, do I have the space, or am I willing to give that space, that real estate, to that particular cabinet? And the fourth, being the most important, is am I willing to spend that money on that particular game or cabinet? If you go through those 4 questions and you can answer, you know, yes to those 4 questions, then you know you do actually want that cabinet. If you answer no to at least one of those, I would think it is maybe more a FOMO thing that you're experiencing, and that's where I would probably say, you know what, don't spend the money. You know, wait it out. Maybe there might be a cabinet coming in the next couple of months to a year that maybe you'll have more of a connection to, that you'll actually want to buy, and you actually know you'll get your money's worth and you'll play. So yeah, so hopefully these 4 questions help you guys. Thanks so much for watching the video. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Like I said, FOMO it's a big thing to a lot of us, and you know, with the prices getting higher, I think we do really need to think, do we actually want some of these particular cabinets, or are we just kind of getting caught up in the buzz and the excitement? And, you know, we need to understand, too, that we don't have to just jump on every cabinet now. We can wait it out, because Arcade1Up is still going to keep on coming out with those hits, and at some point we're all going to find the cabs that we actually want, and we're all going to find cabs that we are willing to spend that money for, that are cabs that we initially wanted from the beginning. So I think that's important, and just wanted to kind of help people with that. So thanks for watching the video. I'll see you guys on the next one, and hope everyone has a great day.